kids' attention. All right, 7 o'clock. All right, everyone. It's time to start. Welcome to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I'm your president, Bob Tremblay. Happy solstice, by the way. That happened at 4:50 p.m. today. So, we have any first timers? Are you returning or you're a first timer?
I'm a newbie.
You're a newbie.
Newbie to your group, my wife and I have been using telescopes for a while. We're not pros, we're nothing new. We're good moment, we sit on the back deck, the neighbors don't have their porch lights on, and we can see some stars.
Well, that's how it starts. You come out to our observatory and you're gonna be amazed.
That's what I want to do.
Awesome. All righty. So, as a tradition, what we like to do is a roll call around the audience here. So, I'm Bob Tremblay, the president.
I'm Dale Hollenbaugh, president.
Let's see, can I?
Yes. Did you want to do that?
Bob Berta, past president. Jeff McLeod, outreach.
Up to 10 now, Dale. All right. And hello to everyone online. If I say everybody say your name, everybody's going to say it at the same time, aren't they?
David Baranski, treasurer.
Yay.
You guys want to try it? Oh, there you go. Okay, David.
Well, thank you.
I'll do it that way.
You should now. Would you like my card?
There you go.
No. Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. And I'm going to address this evening one of the basic questions, which is the night sky is dark. They've known that since the beginning of civilization. And there are Greek scholars that have questioned that. But the one that really got to it was the German Heinrich Olvers. And he said that with all of the huge numbers of stars in the sky, every square inch of sky should light upon the surface of a star, which means the night sky should be brighter than the sun, and we couldn't be living there. Now that was not really solved, although it is commonly credited to Edwin Powell, to Edwin Hubble, who came up with the idea of the expanding universe. But he is not the first person to come up with that. And his ideas were not really confirmed till recently with the Hubble and the Webb space telescopes. But I think that the person who first came out with the solution was not a scientist at all, but a poet and a writer, Edgar Allan Poe. In 1848, just 1 year before his death, he wrote Eureka, a Poe's poem, in which he says the only mode in which we could comprehend the voids on which our telescopes find would be by supposing that the distance is so immense that no ray from it has yet been able to reach us at all. And that is the solution. But 3 years before that, he wrote a very famous poem that I think all of us read when we were in high school. It's called The Raven. And in that poem, he mentions the word darkness, not once, but 3 times. And I'd like to quote those stanzas now, where he mentions it. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door. But I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness, peering. Long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was that whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore, merely this, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling. By the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crisply shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. I wanted to just add that there is a modern equivalent to the raven. When Jean and Carolyn Shoemaker were living, they were in Flagstaff, and two ravens kind of adopted them. And of course, you know that they had to name those ravens Never and More. And for all I know, those ravens are still alive and they're still feeding at what used to be the Shoemaker home. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank
All
you,
right.
David. It's been a
Thank you.
while since I heard that. One day to be exact, but
One
it
day.
still is a wonderful poem. I could listen to it again.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Adrian.
All right. So if you would, for those online, I think everybody here except you have joined. If you'd like to join, you can join via PayPal or print out a membership form and send it to our PO box. If you would like a lanyard, which I don't have mine today, I'm sorry, well, you can get with us, get the publications at warrenastro.org, and we can get you a lanyard with your name on it. WASP wearables like t-shirts and other things are available in our newsletter. Mark Kezier is, I think his cousin is making them. Those are pretty cool. Astronomy at the Beach, our big event this year is September 20 and 21. It's going to be at Mayberry State Park this year, not Island Lake State Park, because that is under construction. So clubs have been asked to start getting their table fees. We got to get with David. We got to get with you on that to get the table fee to the Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Clubs.
Okay.
Yep, so I'll get with you later on that. So the Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Clubs is what puts this on if you're interested in helping plan astronomy at the beach. We meet every second Monday of the month via Zoom. So we need your help this year. And I believe because we are going to be at Mayberry State Park, which is really close to Northville, well, light pollution is pretty bad, so we're actually going to be highlighting light pollution this year. And from what I've heard in our meetings, we're going to be having several of these EV scopes like the Sea Stars out there on the field. So that'll be interesting. So officer reports, let's see. So there's been a long tradition of astronomers like going out and after meetings and stuff and doing back of the napkin calculations and diagrams and stuff like that. Well, this is something that Brother Guy sent to me. I should put this over here so you guys can see it. Yeah, there we go. The Vatican Observatory is hosting a workshop on black holes, gravitational waves, and space-time singularities right now over in Castel Gandolfo, which is southeast of Rome. And Brother Guy sent this picture. This is the inside of one of the program books and some mild calculations. I know, yeah, I know. I saw this. I went, I think I recognize maybe one or two small parts of that. But yikes, anybody that can write that freehand in public scares me. But so let's see, using in and space-time singularities. There's 35 scientists in attendance and 150 joining via Zoom. And he said we're still in mid-meeting. It actually goes on again tomorrow. And too soon to report any grand breakthroughs in understanding the underlying structure of space-time. So if that's what they're trying to do, well, but anyway, so like the highbrows are meeting in Castel Gandolfo right now. You've seen me use an app called Space Engine. I use it quite a lot for demonstrations and stuff. It came out with a recent update, and it has a bunch of new exoplanets and their host stars, a bunch of new binary asteroids in the solar system, and it has a new screenshot tool It lets you generate images up to 65K by 65K, so you can make wall-sized images of screenshots of this app now. So that was like crazy. Um, uh, Connie and I were at the air show at June 8th and 9th, or I was there 8th and 9th. Connie was there the 9th, and several Lost members showed up at the event that time. Thank you very much, guys. There were several Glack members that were in front of the tent, and they had solar scopes set up, and there was a really cool. There was a hydrogen alpha, I think it was a Lunt 80, and there was a beautiful double loop prominence at about 11 o'clock on the sun. It lasted both days. It changed a little the second day, kind of smashed in, but the first day, two beautiful loops. It was really great. So, Dale, you want to give a quick report?
Okay, we've had a lot of good speakers this year, and we need more. Okay, if you have something, please let me know. Thank you.
That was easy. So, Riyadh, is Riyadh online? Riyadh? It is not online. Our open house is in 2 days, which is kind of unusual for a Macomb meeting, but the 22nd, the first Monday was the first. So this is the fourth Monday. So our uh our open house and star party will be in 2 days at Stargate Observatory. Come on and have a good time. Um, let's see, David, treasurer.
Okay,
Anything?
so on our accounts, so in our checking account, we've got $25,436 and a whopping 93 cents. We don't have any balance at all on our credit card. And on our PayPal account, took a bit of a hit over the month because we ordered some of those trifolds. And also our Zoom account was renewed, so we're down to about $533 on there. But we got plenty of money in the checking account to whatever project we want to do there. We got cash.
Okay.
I have a quick question for you, Dave. Astronomical League, did we ever send anything in for that? Or has my delinquency caused us to be behind on that?
I need to get together with you and David about the Astronomical League stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to the conference in July. I did receive my reflector, but I definitely want to go ahead and take care of that. I can at least send in a roster and then I can talk with you all about what how much we would have to send them. I don't think it's too late, but we are near the end of June, so we do need to take care of that.
All
And
right.
that's my fault on that. I'll make some calls. I know Astronomical League members, so I'll make some calls, make sure that we're still going to be okay.
Cool. Thank you. Let's see. Charlie, are you there? No. Okay. So, Jeff, anything going on outreach?
You covered the air show.
Yeah, the air show. The air show is really good. I'm not sure if they're going to do it again next year or whether it's going to be a every other year type thing.
Every year, every other year, 4 times a year. We're unsure. I think it's every other year.
We'll see.
There were different answers. Hopefully they'll reach out to us and we'll know. But yeah, Mike O'Dowd was there. He helped out a little bit. Thank you, Mike. Laura Wade was there. She helped out a little bit. Tina was there both days, helped me and you a lot. Thank you, Tina. You were there, but you don't get a thanks. You were obligated to be there. Um, thank your wife for us though, because she didn't have to be there and she was there. And then some Ford Club guys really helped out too. Are they Ford Club or are they?
I think one of the Ford Club. I think they were representing Black, but
Yeah.
the only reason they had Black flyers there is because I brought them the second day.
They're representing astronomy. I'm gonna see if we do it again. I'm gonna see if they can maybe not hide the steam zone behind a bunch of vehicles. It was kind of strange. Like they had this huge hangar full of all the STEM stuff, and then there was kind of a gap, but then they had a huge military, I don't know what the experience was, trailer, and then like some military vehicles. So if you were walking the static display, you could easily see those vehicles and be like, well, I don't need to see those vehicles. Anyway, it doesn't need to be online because I'm talking trash about the Selfridge airship when they were great. They were great to us. Have us back.
Yeah, the steam bunkers were really cool. I barely got a chance to see everything in there, but my goodness,
Yeah, they had
if I was a teenage kid, I'd have been going nuts in there.
some guys had like some nearly $10,000 model airplanes and
Oh
stuff,
yeah,
like real jet model
the
airplanes.
guy had a warthog. The thing's wingspan was about that big, and he was walking it around
Yeah.
instead of walking my warthog. It was hilarious.
There was a Boston Dynamics dog there the first day. It never got Yeah, I was walking at people. It was pretty strange. Didn't have a gun that I saw.
Flamethrower,
Not that I saw. It was the base model.
a flamethrower.
So we were recently contacted by Sony Pictures about attending the pre-screening
What is that?
premiere of this new movie called Fly Me to the Moon. We're gonna send out an email blast to the membership in the next couple of days with how you can go about registering. The registering gets you a ticket, but it doesn't guarantee you access. It's first come, first serve. There's a date in June and there's a date in July. So if you're like about it and you want to try to go to see this thing, please do. And I'm going to personally ask that if the movie ends up like it looks in the trailer, implying that we faked the moon landing, please boo at the end as loud as you can. I will be there. I will be there if they crossed me, because this is sacred ground. I will boo as loud as I can at the end of the movie. I don't care. This is blasphemy because we're the ones. We're the ones that are going to have to deal with this for the rest of our lives. Oh, did you see that movie? That's how they did it. They faked it in the movie, so they faked it in real life. If you go through the YouTube comments on the trailer, there's already people that are like, finally, the truth is coming out.
Watch Capricorn 1 and be happy with it.
So I'm hoping that they're going to allude to faking it and then not fake it, but I still kind of don't like Apple. It's a conglomerate of Sony Pictures and Apple TV, which Apple TV was the network that came out with the show where the Soviets landed on the moon with a Grumman built lander. Sorry, I have my bugaboos about that, but yeah, there's this revisionist history at Apple where, hey, how about instead of America doing great things, other people did great things, and I really don't care for it. So it seems like it's in that vein again, where it's like, oh, they were faking all kinds of stuff, and I will not stand for it.
Jeff, Jeff, I have a feeling, that they're going to include an asterisk and say moon landings were real, but what if? And then the rest of the movie will be showing how a moon landing could be faked, and it's going to play into this current generation's love of being contrary to everything, and it's going to make a lot of money. That's my take on it.
There will be blood, Jeff says. Right.
Well, and then you've got the Artemis, and then
Say
you've got the Artemis mission in which people will say, see, if it's successful, we did go to the moon. It was us. It wasn't 1969. But I think we still have a couple of astronauts left that are alive that have been on the moon. So that alone is
Well, I mean,
it kind of blows my mind that we're still talking about it.
Isn't there some question about, well, what are they going to use for a lander when the Artemis? Because it ain't going to be Starship. God, I could have Jeff.
Watching a prominent YouTuber who was given unprecedented access to the new suits, the EVA suits that NASA has been developing. And so she was giving the rundown of Artemis 3. Artemis 3 is going to use this rocket to blast into space, and then we're going to land on the moon. You did not say with what, how, when, and then we'll use these suits. Just completely glosses over that they don't have a lander. Nobody has a lander.
Nobody has a. The premise here is that nobody has a lander for the moon right now, and we're supposed to land there next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked to Elon Musk in
Yeah.
2016. He already ferried people around the moon. Your moon mission in 2023.
Talk to Elon Musk.
So it's all canceled, yeah.
Anyway, so we could talk about this at the break. Anyway, so our newsletter is out. It's actually been out for a while. You can see that on our website. Our newsletter editor, Dale Teamy, up in my upper left, won an award from the Astronomical League, what, 2 years ago now? Yeah, so our award-winning newsletter editor. So you can contact the board and email us at board@warrenastro.org if you have any questions. So astronomy news, one of the things I've been doing every time here is the exoplanet count. So we are up 45 exoplanets from last time. We're 5671 and up 56 candidates up to 7203. So lots of exoplanets. Yay. Let's see, let me share this image here today. Today I went to the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Hello. Tech issues. There we go. Share that.
Clicking
There we go.
to NASA.gov. NASA selects Blue Origin as second Artemis lunar lander provider.
NASA selects Blue Origin as second.
SpaceX
Is the first lunar lander. Okay.
So how many times has Blue Origin landed on the moon?
0.
How many times have they tested the lander on Earth?
0? Really? Wow.
Even mock-ups of the lander. Sorry, I don't
Anyway,
fan. It's just like
yeah.
sometimes you have to
I want to go back to the moon too. It would be nice to have an actual equipment that could land there, right? So anyway, this picture of the sun, this is the photosphere from about 3 o'clock this afternoon. As you can see, there's some absolutely monster sunspots on the moon, and spaceweather.com, that's on the sun. That's photosphere. So the it's on the sun. What do I say? Anyway, AR 3712.
We should land on the sun.
On the bottom right. Yeah, you go right ahead and try. The one on the lower right is big, nasty, and can harbor X-class flares, and probably will be. And the one above it is harbor M-class flares. And again, that was from about 3 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, big footprints. First time I've heard that. So, if you would be interested in starting a special interest group, be it radio astronomy, computers and technology, education, light pollution, podcasting, go ahead and do it and contact the board. And I'm sure you might get somebody interested. So, do we have astronomy questions from the audience at all? The June, not July, not July. Did I say July? If I said July, that was incorrect. The June issue is out. Dale is going to be wanting to get the reports from the officers for the July issue pretty soon. So, observing reports. Other than that, that really cool prominence I saw the 8th and the 9th. Anybody have any observing reports or pictures? We got
I've
a lot of
got
online
one.
people. Anybody got pictures? What do you got?
Well,
8.
I am driving, so I can't show the pictures right now. I'm going to be safe. But I will point out that with the lots of people like myself are taking cameras, doing night sky photography, and it's becoming more and more of a thing to do just the pictures. In addition to me wanting to see more articles written about what we're looking at, for instance, sky glow. With an active sun, all of our pictures are showing a lot more sky glow, or air glow, I think is officially what it's called. And it's bewildering a lot of imagers. A lot of imagers that stack their photos are not going to see as much air glow as those that take single long exposures. But it's something that's appearing in this summer's Milky Way images, and some are embracing it and some are using their processing tools to get rid of it. I believe it should stay in our photos, as it indicates we are nearing a solar maximum, and the images show a difference between where we are now with an active sun pelting us day by day with radiation versus the dormant sun we've had in past years, and the skies, only the really dark skies showing any sign of sky glow at all, or air glow. We call it air glow.
You have
So,
examples?
my
pictures
observing
of
report
this?
is air glow. I do. I don't want to. Maybe I'll stop somewhere and pull a picture out.
No, I'm thinking of getting you with
So
you offline on this, maybe a post on the VO site about this. This sounds interesting.
yeah,
So,
it may be it may be an article that I seek to write. I may try a small version of it, and then see if I can flesh it out to a large version, because I would like to have another article published in a national magazine again. That would be fun.
that would be cool.
So sky
Well, anybody
glow,
else?
the
Anybody
presence.
else seen this here? Anybody else taking photography seen sky glow? What's it look like? Is it like reddish, greenish?
It's pretty.
It's like
There's reddish and greenish blotches in the sky. Or in my case, I caught gravity waves where the sky glow appears in ribbons. I have an image where there's ribbons of red sky glow going across where the small Sagittarius star cloud is, and it's basically cutting that galactic image we've seen a lot. It's basically cutting it in half. Again, I promised to
not
stop,
Aurora,
and
right?
it is not Aurora, although it is, and has more
You're breaking up.
detail. It is a cousin. Yeah, I'm probably in a bad zone. I've been driving in and out of construction zones. It is excited oxygen and nitrogen atoms, but they're heated, they're excited during the day. They continue to have chemical reactions, and they glow in a greenish hint or a reddish tone, and it's essentially the atmosphere, different from aurora, where you have ions, you have particles being excited by a burst of the coronal ejection from the sun, and all those lights like we saw on May 10th. So it's a little different. It's more pronounced because the sun is more active.
All right, so I'm looking to see if
you may have lost me.
Nope, I got it.
Okay, you got me. Yeah.
There we go.
Well, I'm actually finding a place where I can pull off. And while if anyone else does have an observing report, I
Take a
will
look. I've
share
got.
an image.
There we go. Like that.
That is an older image. The reddish glow near the bottom and the greenish glow, those could be sky glow. That was taken last year, but I will share. Let me see. I'm gonna pull the image up first of all, and I'll share an image that is definitely showing sky glow. This one is definitely showing sky glow. Let me see if I can do this. Now that I've pulled off to the side. So I am doing this safely. Share
Thank you.
photos. Let's see. Share that one. And I will share
You're on the road all the time.
that one. I need to sleep a lot more, is what I need to do. Here we go. So you see those lines going through the galactic core. There's a little bit of green. There's a lot of red here. That is air glow. You've got a number of things lighting up the sky in this long. The only reason we have any detail at all in the Milky Way is due through a long image. I think this exposure was 5 minutes straight for the sky, but you've got your light pollution sources, and then you've got air glow streaming. They call it gravity waves when it streams like this, where you've got lines going, lines of sky glow, coming one after another. There's another image I should share that shows both the green and the red and aurora. We'll see if we can share that. Let me stop. How do I stop sharing? Caught some lightning, by the way. Wanted to share that too. Let me see if I can. Yeah, here we go. Stop sharing, and let me share one more time, and then I will give. Let's see. Give the. Here we go. Share this one and share this one. And that should be, and I'll share this old one. Okay, so here you go. Greenish sky glow, reddish sky glow, and then this glow that's a slightly different color from the reddish sky glow is the cap of distant aurora that was going on. So you've got basically both the aurora, which is the coronal mass ejecta from the sun. There was enough to where here in the thumb of Michigan we could see it, and then you've got regular sky glow over the Perseus and Cassiopeia wing. This exposure was long enough to get some spiral arm detail in this wide angle shot with Andromeda. And then you've got some light pollution and sky glow mixed in. There's the gravity wave red sky glow. You've got the more general green sky glow, just sort of adding to the picture. Now, what imagers would want to do is nullify all of that light and just make it dark and have you focus on just the galactic center. But I believe you should leave everything in because it's a more accurate depiction of what your sky is like. And then when you're near Lake Huron, it's always, you have a nice, beautiful foreground. Here's an old picture, and you can see the sky glow, and you can see there's not as much. This is actually the Cygnus region. Very dark sky, the Okie-Tex dark sky. This was the only place you could really pick up sky glow back when I took this picture 3 years ago, I believe. The sun has just now become more active, but this was where I would pick up sky glow. I would not pick it up in Michigan so much. And then of course, there's techniques you use for imaging. If you use stacking as a part of it, you're going to make the air glow fade to where you don't see as much of it in your images. But single images, excuse me, longer exposures, you see the whole sky.
So I'm
So there
looking
you
up
go.
sky glow. I'm looking up sky glow online here, and it's saying it's caused by artificial light sources. That is not what we're talking about. Air
Right.
glow.
Yeah, air glow is the term I should be using. They're using sky glow to refer to what we've also called light pollution, but man-made sources of light, cities, um, bright lights going up. We've typically called it light pollution,
So
and
yeah,
it
Wikipedia
it
says
also gets a name.
air glow, also called night glow, is a faint emission of light by a planetary atmosphere. In the case of Earth's atmosphere, this optical phenomena causes the night sky never to be completely dark, even after the effects of starlight and diffused sunlight are from the far side removed. Phenomenon originates with self-illuminated gases and has no relationships to Earth's magnetism or sunspot activity.
Which would
So
be the aurora.
yeah,
So
there's
it's
this, there's the Wikipedia thing shows it from space too, and I've seen that a lot. It just looks like the atmosphere is like yellow or green glowing. It's very
yeah,
cool.
green, glowing greenish color just sort of hangs out there. I think
Where in the
I
thumb did you
would
take
like
that picture?
that was Delaware State Park near Deckerville. So it was maybe 2/3 of the way up the thumb. If you think of the tip of the thumb being where Port Crescent is, I was about 2/3 of the way up and facing out over Lake Huron. So it was yeah, it was one of those. It was going to be dark. The moon was slowly growing, so I had a couple of days left and slogged it out. Was absolutely no good for work to find the next day, but it was still worth it.
All right. Any other observing
So,
reports
yep.
from anyone? If not, why don't we take our snack break? And it is at 7:36. We'll come back almost directly 8 o'clock. We'll come back at 8 o'clock. I'll give a 5-minute warning and go take a break. Get a munchie, take a bio, talk about astronomy. Yay.
Well, well, I had dinner, so I will
Go
retreat
eat
to the
dinner.
background.
I will show this picture of air glow here. I'm on the Wikipedia right now on the air glow, and this I shared the wrong screen there.
Yeah, there's let's see, there is sky glow, and
I go
there
there we
is
go.
there's a good
I'm sure.
video that ESA, European Space Agency, did on phenomena of air glow, what causes it. I looked that up when I was curious. They were asking the same questions I was asking, which was why are we seeing it a lot more in images? And I had a hunch it had to do with the sun being more active. They pretty much validated that in the last 5 years we've had a more active sun. So their imagers taking beautiful pictures of the night sky around the very large telescope down their telescopes down there. They basically said, yeah, it's the same thing. The active sun is playing more of a role in exciting more atoms in our atmosphere. As that Wikipedia thing says, they say it's nothing to do with magnetism. It's radiation. It's not magnetism, but you still get that glow.
This looks like a
Yeah, you
landing.
get that glow of light. Oh, there's the red air glow.
Lander never appears on that page. So then we go to Blue Origin. It's the space program.
Boy,
The Blue Origin is saying they're going to have the Mark 1 unmanned cargo lander in 2025. They currently have like none of it.
that looks surprisingly like what was the magazine from the 1950s that had that famous
They just took a picture out of a science fiction book.
yeah, no, that picture.
They're doing it. He's got them both guys locked up. Yeah, mock out.
Yeah, but I should have. I got more to show for it than these guys.
Yeah, there's a magazine from the 50s that a famous aeronautical artist had a lot of things in. I think it was Culver's. I think that was it. I'm not sure. But the lander he had for the moon lander looks almost just like that Blue Origin thing you just showed. Let's see if I can find that. I think it was
Well,
Culver.
knowing
Right?
I wouldn't expect NASA to be a last minute organization, but if they do, the lander's going to have wings and it's just going to be terrible. Hopefully someone scraps it before it
Wings and
gets
a
a real
parachute.
lander
Wings and a
in time.
parachute.
Yeah, wings and a parachute. They were like, this is our lander. Why can't we use it? What do you mean we can't use it? Like, okay. So hopefully that's not the case.
So that they don't have to, if they don't have anything.
Colliers,
Unless
there it
they
is.
unless they plan to have, and I don't know where the conversation is going, but I'm just jumping in because I do. Unless they plan to have the rocket itself be a lander, you know,
So that's here.
that could be.
So this is the image from Collier's magazine from the 50, what was it, 1950? I can't read that. 52. There you go. So, yeah, take a look. I'll get this on the screen. This is Collier's magazine from 1952. Yeah. And that thing's not small either. And that lander you had there looked pretty much like that with fairing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just their bone still.
Wow. Having a discussion here about plans for landing on the moon and how there's no real lander so far.
You're not trying to land the whole launch vehicle.
Okay, getting ready here.
2 years after the moon landing, there's a little while and then the. Yeah. They've been trying to replace it for.
Yeah. I've done this before. Back out here. There we go. Way Bob is over here. All right. All ready to go? All right, it is 8 o'clock. It is time for our feature presentation. Grab a seat and listen. Now, Dale Parton introduce our speaker.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Our speaker this evening is Bob Berta. He retired to Michigan in 2004. Came all the way from California, where he worked in the electric power industry. Out there, he was very active in the San Francisco Amateur Astronomy Club, and I think he's still a member. He's also a member of this organization, as well as the Oakland Astronomy Club and the Seven Ponds Club. And I guess he gets around in astronomy circles here. He's been in several board positions here in the Warren Astronomical Society, been secretary, observatory chair, outreach, and president. And he was also vice president of the Oakland Astronomy Club. His two favorite astronomy interests are outreach and astrophotography. So if you want to learn astrophotography, here's the guy that can help you. And he's a man of many talents. He's very musical. He's a gigging musician. Maybe you can explain that a little better. I think I have a rough idea.
You perform.
Okay. On both electric and pipe organ, accordions, and synthesizers. And he belongs to some musical organizations and has been president for some of them. His topic tonight is A Tale of Two Cities and Two Eclipses. Bob?
Okay. Again, this is meant to be a lighthearted talk, so don't expect a whole lot of science on this one. Every once in a while, we like to have talks here, which are a little bit more laid back and perhaps a little more entertaining. And this is going to start out with not with the recent April 8th, 2024 solar eclipse, but it's going to start out with the eclipse back in 2017. Before we get there, let me see if I can start it here. Okay, we'll get into it. Now I want to change it to the next one, which should be. How do I flip it to the next one? How do you go next one? The next one? But rotate it? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Oops, too far. Okay. And I would have to say that those who have seen an eclipse will have to agree with me that of all things you can see and experience in astronomy, a solar eclipse rules as one of, if not the greatest. And just as a side note, this little boy looking through that telescope, my late friend and his wife, we went to all kinds of astronomy events, and we used to go to Arizona and Tucson for a couple of weeks every year. He and his wife owned a very high-end jewelry store in the San Francisco Bay Area, but he was an avid astrophotographer and his wife was an avid astronomy buff. She was in charge of providing all the speakers for the San Francisco Club for about 15 years. But one of the things that we did, we used to go to a store called Starizona in Tucson. And Starizona, it was a great company. I haven't got enough good words to say about them. I bought a lot of stuff from them, kept them in business perhaps. And they used to have star parties all the time. In fact, they still have 2 or 3 days a week out in front of their store. And this particular telescope is a 10-inch apochromatic telescope, very expensive. 20 years ago, when this was taken, this was about a $40,000 just for that telescope, not the mount. And that's an Astrophysics 1200 mount, which is the same one we have out at our club. And this was actually not owned by that guy. He was having a heavier duty mount built for that telescope, and it had not come in yet. So this was the first light for that telescope. When he got it, it's up in front of the store, and this little, probably 3-year-old boy decided, hey, it looks like I can look through that thing. So I'm sure when Santa Claus looked through his Christmas lists for that year, he probably about had a heart attack when he saw what that little boy wanted for Christmas. Okay. Are we going backwards? There we go. Okay. Okay. No, Ken Burton isn't here because this is something I learned from Ken Burton. What
Right.
is an eclipse? Oh, Ken is here.
Yeah, I just came in.
Okay, so I'm giving you credit, Ken, for
Thank
a
you.
syzygy. And Ken could even tell you some interesting story about that. One of the the contestants on was it Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that? Ken, what's the story about that?
Oh, that was the one where the question was there and they gave some weird remark about it, but I saw it and of course, syzygy, I knew exactly what it was. But yeah, that was a very interesting one. We've had a couple since then too, actually. But yeah, syzygy. Well, what syzygy is actually when 3 objects in space line up, but actually it was originally referred to looking at a pair of yoken oxen. That's actually what the word meant, I guess, in the Greek or something. I guess it might have been Roman, but I think it's Greek. And that's what it in fact meant, that you're looking at a pair of yoken oxen. And, well, some astronomer along the way said, well, that's when it happens when the moon and the sun line. Anyway, so that's any 3 objects in space lining up is called a syzygy. All right. So if you have an occultation or you have Venus moving in front of the sun, again, there's 3 lined up, and that's syzygy.
Okay, so the reason I called on Ken to explain that was because he is the one that first told me about a syzygy. In fact, if you ever emailed Ken, that's part of his handle, his email address. And also, Ken was the one who accompanied me on both of these eclipse trips, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. We had some great times, and we had some interesting times on them. This particular picture, lunar eclipse, that was taken by my son, who's now 24 years old, but he was in 5th grade at the time. This was a lunar eclipse back in 2010, and his teacher, who was really into astronomy, in fact, she would have us come in each year while he was in grammar school and give a talk to the 5th and the 6th grade kids. And so she told the kids, if you stay up tonight and see the lunar eclipse, I'll give you extra credit. Well, the lunar eclipse, as you know, takes a while to work its way across the surface and cover it, then go the other direction, right? So the total point was completely, not totality, the lunar eclipse, but the point was completely covered, happened about 3 o'clock in the morning. And so my son set his alarm clock and he got up every half an hour or so, every hour, took a picture, went back to bed, set his alarm clock, got up an hour later, half an hour later, took another picture. So finally, the next day, he had all these pictures individual. So he and I created a composite image of all those showing the moon from the point down the lower right, trying to get covered. Up the upper left there, that's when it's the full uncovered, working its way around. And then when you finally get the full coverage, you get the moon becomes blood red. And the reason for that is because the remaining light is going around the sun, and it's the long waves of light. So that's why you're getting the red color to the moon. The neat thing about the lunar eclipse is that it happens more often than a solar eclipse, where you're located. And number two, the neat thing about it is that when you see that, you don't have to go to a place like we had to go to see the solar eclipse. And we'll talk about what that means in a second. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, as Ken mentioned, you've got three objects lined up in space. In the case of the lunar eclipse, on the left, you can see the moon over to the right, the Earth in the middle, and the sun over here on the left. In the solar eclipse, it's just the opposite. The Earth is back away from the sun, the moon's in the middle, and then the sun's out here. So that's why you get the two different effects. Okay, so we went to Casper, Wyoming, 2017. My son and I, and also Ken, drove out there. Ken and I shared the duty of driving there, going through things like heavy duty rainstorm, heavy duty hill storm. I had a brand new van at the time, and I was saying I can see myself getting a broken windshield, looking like a golf ball when I'm done with all the dents in it, but we survived and no damage to it. And the things we did there was, first of all, we got there early. We got there, I think, about a week early or so, because we wanted to go to a convention that was there. It was a convention of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, their night sky network. So we went there and had a great time. All the different manufacturers there. We had people we got to meet there. Some famous astronomers gave talks, and one of them was Fred Espenak, who is known as Mr. Solar Eclipse. He's very famous. He has tons of pictures, and he and Ken are good friends because Ken has been to, I think, 13 full solar eclipses, Ken. And he's been to 4 or so annular eclipses all over the world. Some places I wouldn't want to go to see them. And so we had a great time there. The neat thing about it was that we knew we were going to be spending some time there in advance of the solar eclipse. So we were able to book hotel rooms about a year or more in advance for this thing. So we got a great rate on the hotel rooms. More about that in a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get this to work. This was, I thought, was probably one of the coolest things, the photography I did on the trip. I did a video, and I'm hoping I can get the run here. This was with a Garmin little sports cam. I just set up on a little teeny tripod, sitting on the ground, aimed up where the eclipse was going to be. And it went from the point when there was no coverage at all, and then went on and on and on, full coverage, and then afterwards. If you look at this picture, the little teeny dots of light there, up in the, I guess you can't see, can you see?
Yes.
Okay, right there, that is the sun when it was at totality there. So it's a very small image, right? Because you got a very wide field. Down here, the light down here was, I'm not certain what that light was. It might have been somebody's flashlight or something.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get this to run. I'm hoping I can get this to run. I'm not running this from my tablet, which I normally do. Okay. Now this is about, how long is that? Pardon?
Running on that screen?
Yeah, it's running on that one. Yeah, that's.
Is that the laptop screen or you can do it?
Yeah, it's running on here. How do I get the show up there? Sharing that screen. Well. I have to go down here. See if you can click on there. On this? No, that'll run it there, but it won't show it on the screen. There it is. Oh, there you go. Okay. There you go. Okay. Now this will be a little while, and I'll point out some of the things you're seeing here. First of all, there were some very, very thin clouds, and the predictor camera setup I had with the setting kind of emphasized these thin clouds. To your eye, you didn't see them really that much. Over here, as you know, the horizon is curved. That's because it was such a wide angle lens. Uh, yeah. That actually was me in the lower right walking away from it. The thing that was cool about this was at the hotel we were located at, and there's probably a couple hundred people out in this dirt parking lot out in front of it. And these people came from all over the world. Right next to us, there were a group of people from Beijing, China. Um, and in fact, when the eclipse starts happening, you'll hear people speaking in Chinese and everything else. Also, one of our members here, where'd he go? Oh, he left. Jeff left. Jeff and his girlfriend were involved here doing some athletic stuff. You'll see later on, the natural thing to do when you have an eclipse is to do acrobatics, right? Well, they do some acrobatics. We'll see them in a second. But what I want you to note, though, as it goes on here, you're going to start seeing it getting darker a little bit. I think what I can do here, let me see if I can. Yeah, drag it. I don't want you to sit through the whole thing. Okay, right here.
There you go.
Okay, there you look the lower center here. We're doing some acrobatics, headstand. There you go. She made it, and she survived. Anyway, but we had a fantastic time. And the thing that's neat is, I don't know if I can turn the volume up on this a little bit on the laptop, whatever, to hear the background speaking a little bit.
We could hear it earlier.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay.
No, we heard it a little earlier, so it was working somehow.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay, a little bit. But let me see if I can. I know you don't want to sit around for hours and hours waiting for the whole video to run, but as you move on, now watch as I'm moving on, it's getting darker. And people are putting on their solar glasses because you don't want to go to eclipse not having your solar glasses. If you look at the sun, even though it's almost completely covered, the little teeny bit of light going by the edge of the sun can put out as much energy, light, and eye damaging rays as the full sun. So you don't want to look at the sun. The only time it's safe to look at the sun is when it's fully covered. Then it's safe to take your glasses off.
And you must do that.
Yeah.
A lot of people will watch one of these things and say, I can't take these glasses off. And when totality comes, they don't get to see it.
Yep. Let's move on here. Whoops.
If you don't mind me injecting a period.
Let's go ahead here.
This was earlier.
Okay, now let's go back here. Continue on. And as I say, this is going to be a small image because it's a wide angle. I've got later at the end of it, you'll see the full images I took. But the thing that's neat is, as you see this image right there, it's very small. And you can see right there, it's completely covered totality. And when you're at totality, what happens is, first of all, as you're looking around you, it looks like somebody is pulling a curtain. This was much more noticeable when we were at our last year. But it looks like somebody actually was around you was taking this light and pulling it around like a curtain around you, like dropping down. Also, it gets about 10 degrees, 15 degrees cooler in that amount of time. Then once it gets past the totality, it gets about 10 degrees warmer. Okay, now so I can.
This eclipse was 2 minutes and 17 seconds long. Is that right, Bob? If I'm right?
That's right. Yeah. And the recent one was just over 4 minutes where we were. And now let's scoot ahead.
There we go.
Coming uncovered. Okay. Now everybody's putting their glasses back on. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if I can get, oops, yeah,
That's good.
I'm gonna go back. Let me go back. I went too far ahead.
There you go.
Okay. What I wanted to do was see if I can, hopefully I can get the sound on this right in this area here.
The
It's
gas.
right about here. And I don't know if it's gonna pick it up very well, but you can hear the people around it, hear them cheering and hollering and say, "Oh, it's cool." Well, and and this video is probably the closest to the experience. If you've never been to a total solar eclipse, this is probably the closest I've seen, actually experiencing.
When's the next one?
Okay, now let's continue on here. And let's get out. Oops. Okay, and we'll uncover it here, and everybody's back to more or less normal conditions. And at the very end here, I think it's right about here. I come over to turn off the camera. They're right there. And then, okay, and there's a couple of pictures I got there. Okay, that's the diamond ring effect. And here's when it's covered. Upper 1 o'clock, you'll see a flare there, the red light coming out. That's the flare. And this thing that's neat about it is that normally to see those prominences, you would have to have an H alpha filter on your telescope. Uh, when you have a total solar eclipse, you can actually see them with your naked eye. You don't have to have that, special telescope.
That's
Okay.
that's the special thing about it. And the fact is that a total solar eclipse, your eye sees the full range of the spectrum and a camera cannot. So
Right.
unless you have filters on it or whatever it is to help that enhance, you can tell people that they've seen pictures of it and that's good enough. Well, that ain't even close. This is the most spectacular physical event that you'll ever see. Promise you.
Kenneth, I saw a Facebook posting. Someone's like, "Yeah, we got 99.6. That's good enough for me."
Not enough.
You can imagine
Yeah.
my response as I rolled my eyes.
I agree. That's it. That's it. But again, this is amazing stuff.
Yep. And like people like around here, actually Detroit, we got about 99% coverage that weekend, I think.
Yeah, we
Uh,
did. We got the
but
sliver.
but that little teeny bit, that makes a difference. I tell people if you haven't seen totality, you haven't seen the full eclipse.
I haven't
And as
seen.
Ken mentioned, the range of the human eye from the whole grayscale, you might say, you have a much greater range than a camera does. I used to actually I owned a photo studio in San Francisco also, and I'm very avid photographer. I can tell you that as cool as that picture is right there, what you actually see with your naked eye, the camera can't compare. I mean, it's just so much more, so much dramatic. Okay, now let me continue on.
Fix that.
Pardon?
That.
Yeah.
Why can't we have the cameras that can do the whole range?
Oh, yeah. Okay, and again, these are the two pictures I got from Casper, Wyoming, which I was happy with those and everything.
But again, take a look at the two pictures there, and you'll notice that the one picture has that corona very, very bright. You can't see the prominence. But when you
Yeah, let's go
look
back
at
here, right there.
the prominence, you can't see the corona. And that's
Yep.
what we're
In fact,
talking
you can see the little red around there. Now, when I show you the pictures from the recent eclipse, it's going to make these not look as great, but that's all right. This is my first eclipse. I know Ken, he's an old timer at this. He's seen several of them, but this was my son and I, the first eclipse we'd seen.
I
This
have
in
a feeling
2013.
Ken has seen more eclipses than I've had dates in my lifetime.
Okay, so now
probably
we
more
start.
than I've had.
Okay, now, like I mentioned, the things we learned are uh, okay. Let's show you what happens. The eclipse is over, and I might have mentioned when we drove there, it took us what 2 days, Ken,
Right.
driving, night and day almost. We had to, take turns driving, so it got to be pretty tedious driving from here to Casper, Wyoming. We said, well, the next day, let's beat the traffic and leave for home now, right? So as soon as the eclipse was over, jump in my car, everything was packed up. Well,
Weren't the only one who had that.
well, not really. Those of you who went to an eclipse, probably the last one last year, the same thing. When you get on to I-75, became a parking lot. This was the main freeway uh, in Wyoming, which is a giant freeway, right? And normally they have no problem going at the speed limit there. Well, between Casper, Wyoming, and Douglas, which is the first town once you leave Casper, it's 50 miles away. Took us 5 hours to get there. 5 hours to go 50 miles. Once we got there, then we went to a different route, which everybody else kind of at that point broke off to go the different directions. So we were able to get a little bit faster after that. But okay, that is a problem. I had visions of at the time I had, it's the same van I have now. It's a full-size Ford van. And I had it filled up with gas and everything, but I had visions of what happens when all these people forgot to get gas, their cars overheat, they're out parked along the road, you got the gigantic traffic jam. Well, miracles and miracles, it didn't happen, at least as far as we could see. We did see several people had to pull over to make fluid management breaks, but
They weren't,
pardon?
they weren't electric vehicles.
Yeah, luckily they weren't electric vehicles.
For sure.
Anyway, and like in astronomy, you like to see lights like stars and everything. Well, hill lights aren't the type of lights I like to see.
You know, I heard that interstate, I think it's 25.
Yeah.
Goes up through there. That's the most traffic that interstate has ever encountered.
Yep. And I know in Wyoming, they said that they doubled the population of Wyoming.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah, that Interstate 25, that event, that was the most traffic that Interstate 25 had ever had.
Yep.
Because it's such a sparsely populated state there.
yep,
Right.
yeah. And can't be given benefit of the doubt. Wyoming is not as many people as some other states, but it was a pretty good straight line freeway with multiple lanes. You think, there'll be no problem, right? Well, guess again.
Mhm.
So anyway, now we're going to prepare for the April 8th eclipse. And Ken and I spent a lot of time trying to think about, okay, the things you want to figure out ahead of time, select the best spot to observe, study the weather patterns, because Ken was the one that told me about this. You really got to narrow down your chances of having a failure by checking the weather traditions for those different areas you're looking at. So you say, okay, maybe Ohio, which they did pass through Ohio, that's more risk there. Greater chance of having bad weather clouds. Travel plans. Again, you have to figure out how we're going to get there, where we're going to go, lodging plans, reservations. This is very important because we lucked out because we made reservations a year plus ahead of time. We got it so far ahead of time, and we were taking a whole week. So we got it at pretty reasonable rates, just a normal hotel rates. Well, the hotel rates were going about $1,200 a night as you got closer to that point. So this could get to be very, very expensive very quickly. And equipment, okay. On Ken's advice, I use the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
I had, in both cases, I had a simple camera, had a DSLR, and I had a 300 millimeter Nikon camera, a lens rather on it, and a simple non-driven tripod, something I could throw it on. Also had the little teeny camera, a little sport camera. Also, you check with other groups and clubs for their plans. As we mentioned earlier in the introduction of myself by Dale, I belong to other clubs, and some other clubs had group plans. One of them was the Oakland Astronomy Club. They decided they were going to go up to Ohio. At the very top of Ohio, there's a pretty good dark spot up there, and get a group drive up there, which they did. And I'd actually considered doing that with them, And that turned out to be okay. They lucked out because the weather was okay there, luckily. Um, there's also a chance it could have been pretty cold weather up there, in April, but they had good weather. A lot of other people didn't make good choices. And we almost didn't make a good choice because we were originally going to go down to Texas for this eclipse. And it turned out Texas was not the place to be. They had storms and bad weather and everything else there. So we had to do some changes in our plans.
That's
And
where
again,
I was, Texas.
yeah, go ahead.
I was in Texas, and I just wanted to say that as the shadow of the moon was so big and so large that the temperature kept on falling, and I was actually shivering, and it was windy and cold. And they said, we're not going to see the eclipse, so read us a poem, which I did. 20 seconds after I finished the poem, the corona appeared in all its glory. It was the most dramatic eclipse I have ever seen in my life from Texas.
Okay, that was David. Okay, David, thank you.
This lets us know that our dear friend David knows how to control the weather with his poetry. You didn't tell me you had that superpower.
Well,
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
it does occur that what happens is when an eclipse occurs for some reason, as the temperature changes and a couple of things, you do get a slight clearing almost everything where you are. By the way, that was something that we always learned about that. Now, of course, if it was completely socked in, you didn't have a chance. We went to South Africa for one of the eclipses, and we got clouded out. That happens, but 1 out of 6 times. But anyway, that happens. But if it's slight, when we landed, well, maybe when you get to the 8th, we'll talk about when we landed, what happened. And go ahead, Bob.
Oh, my picture in the back of my screen is what happened in Ohio. High clouds, the eclipse was visible, but not much of anything else.
Yep.
So yeah, that was Ohio.
Okay. Anyway, we talked about the hotel cost. There's the convenience because some of the people did camp out, and that would be kind of convenient for me. Some people might not like camping out, depending what your own personal things are. The other issue I had was vacation days for my son because he was 24 years old, and his degree is business administration finance, and he works in a bank doing financial work there. So being a new employee, he only had in about 7 months of work in at the time. So he was wondering whether he'd be able to get time to get off. Well, it turned out his boss was very amiable to giving him, in fact, he gave him the entire week off, not knowing if he needed it or not. So he had the whole week off, and he even paid him for the whole time, which is pretty nice. And mentioned a little bit earlier, the special concern is last minute weather changes, which did change our plans. And something that would have happened if we had gone to Texas, we would have probably been stuck, not be able to see it. Theoretically, you could jump in your car and try to drive somewhere where it's clear, but again, you might then run into a million other people trying to do the same thing. So I'm not sure if that would really be possible. Anyway, let's continue on. Okay, so anyway, this is how we got there. Whoops, come on, go back. Okay, okay. We ended up in Batesville, Arkansas, but originally we hadn't planned on going there. We started out in Pontiac, and this was arranged through a friend of Ken. Ken is a financial advisor. That was his job. I don't know if he's semi-retired or retired fully or not now, but he
You
had
don't
a
learn from that. You do
anyway,
not.
this fellow, he's the one that arranged the plane. In fact, we're still trying to find out if he actually owned this plane. This guy is quite the flying buff. This is a 9-passenger business jet, and it was spectacular. We started out in Pontiac in about 8 o'clock in the morning and took off from the airport there. The fellow in the white shirt is a pilot. There was a lady who was the co-pilot, so we had to pay for those 2 people to fly us there. the plane held 9 people, the 3 of us, plus the other seats. Ken had various friends. Some of these friends were his high school classmates. So Ken kept in touch with these people from long ago. Um, and that was interesting because we had a chance to meet with some really interesting people. Uh, my son was a young kid on the trip, so he kind of got a chance to really kind of have fun meeting with the people. And of course, they always played a couple of tricks on him, like when we passed the champagne and stuff around, did where's your driver's license, that type of thing. But we brought our own food. We got sandwiches like from Subway or whatever, brought sandwiches. We had our own food and everything. And by the way, I just want to make one passing comment. This boy wearing the Star Wars shirt, if you're a parent, you have this kid for your parent, consider yourself lucky. He paid for his mom to come on the trip. I thought that was pretty nice.
Good kid.
Okay. So anyway, we flew down to Batesville, Arkansas. Now, why did we go to Batesville? Well, in the morning, we were trying to decide. We used several astronomy programs. The one I liked was was it
Astroperic?
Astrospherics, and you get on there and it shows real-time cloud cover all over and you can put your location. So we were following the locations, and we said, well, places we're thinking about going in Texas are bad, don't go there. We got down to, I think it was Missouri and Arkansas. Said, it looks like the way the clouds are moving, that might be the place to be. So we had to take a little bit of a chance, but we did luck out. We got absolutely flawless weather the whole time. So we flew down to Batesville. Batesville is a town of 10,000 people, little small airport. Probably the airport building itself was probably the size of a small house. And when we landed, pulled onto a taxiway, and just right off the side of the taxiway. Later, we were joined by probably another maybe 15 small, Piper type airplanes, and also 2 twin-engine prop jets from the Army base. They had several Army people that wanted to go see the eclipse, so they flew them down there. That was neat because Ken is a Vietnam era veteran, so he's able to go over and thank you for your service type of thing and everything else. So he was enjoying that.
Well, that was the funniest part about that was the guy who was the pilot was a major. And I said to him, I said, you outranked me because I was a lieutenant in the service. But when I was a lieutenant, your parents weren't born yet. And he got a kind of a kick out of that.
And this is my son wearing the white pants in the little picture. And this is all of our crew. You might be wondering, what is our laundry doing out on the lawn? Ken can explain some of it. Why don't you tell him about what the different reason for doing that is, Ken?
You mean the laundry on there?
Yeah, the laundry. Yeah.
I don't remember that one. I just remember the disc. What
Oh,
you?
well, the laundry is because when you have a total eclipse, since it's the light's being changed, the frequency and everything, those
Yeah.
will look completely different.
They will change color. That's right. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the colors will get really
Right.
dynamic, really standing out. Other ones, like the reds, will get sort of subdued and everything. So
Right.
that's a cool thing to do. That green thing on that sheet, we'll have a picture up close what that's doing later on.
That's right.
Okay, there it is. That is like a kitchen colander with a bunch of round holes punched in it. But when the light from the eclipse passes through it, you end up with a bunch of eclipses on the ground. There's some people have actually taken metal colanders to use that, and you actually create a very artistic, kind of a psychedelic thing from those. One thing I would mention, one thing you like is the convenience of your location. And the convenience was such that we had the food with us, right? We brought our food and lunches with us. The other convenience, we have probably the world's most expensive outhouse with us. So we didn't have to run over to the airport little building there. A couple of times we did go over there because they don't want you walking on the runway, of course. But we had one of the local guys, he brings us over in like an old minivan. And when he first saw it, he said, "Hey, where are you all from?" I said, "We're all from Michigan." He says, "Well, I can tell that you're all speaking Yankee."
That's right. I remember that.
Okay, so I took a few pictures. One was with a H alpha filter on my scope. Or excuse me, no, it's just yeah, with an H alpha filter. So you got the sunspot, a couple of sunspots there. It wasn't that dramatic, actually. I was surprised, there wasn't more sunspots on it. Right now would be a great time if it was now. And that's when it starts getting covered. There is a shadow works its way across. That's another picture with a different setup. And this is with the H alpha. This isn't a particularly great picture here, but the other one's speaking when you can actually see the surface detail on the sun, etc. Okay, here's just a regular white light picture. White light is just me not using any filter except a neutral density filter. There's no change or coloring of the light, no narrow spectrum or anything. Oops, too far. There we go.
That one.
Okay, this is the diamond ring, and here you can see several of those prominences on it. You'll see the wedge-shaped one on the left, and work your way across little small ones there. And this diamond ring effect is a cool effect. It's like the last smidgen of light from the sun still showing. And at this point is when you can take your solar glasses off to look at it safely.
Now
And you can see all that. Pardon?
the little dots on the bottom are Bailey's beads. That's the last vestige.
Yeah, the next one will show the Bailey speeds. And this is
That prominence there on the left there, by the way, just to give you an idea, is 4 times the size of the Earth.
Yep. Okay, and this is the Bailey's beads. And the Bailey's beads, the best shot is about 2 to 5 seconds before totality. And my camera, it's a Nikon DSLR, so I just set it up to take a bunch of pictures. I go click, it goes click, 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 click. So I picked out the one that's the best one. What this is caused by is the light going by the mountains on the moon, and it actually visually, if you look at it, it looks like it's kind of dancing. The little beads will kind of dance, and that's because the light going through that. It's really a cool effect. And you can see that little wedge we talked about earlier on the left there. That's over in here. That's the little wedge we talked about. And this is a cool picture. I think that's a neat one of the Bailey's beads. So as you become a solar aficionado, like my good friend Ken is, all these little things you kind of appreciate more. Okay, here is, again, this is a totality. This is not the full extent of it yet, but this is the point where I can still see the flares or the prominences, basically a little V shape at the bottom there. And the next one here.
I was astounded to see that brown.
Oh yeah,
Could not believe that.
this is the full deal. And this was, again, the camera got a neat picture of it, but if you're there and actually watch with your own eyes, it would actually go up probably another 30% or so, 50% beyond that. Cool effect.
There's
Yeah.
also another factor there. See the red along the side at the bottom there?
Yeah, yeah.
That's known as the chromosphere. So that's the outer atmosphere, technically, of the sun's surface itself. And you get to see that during an eclipse, and that's very special.
Yep. Okay. Now, well, the next picture. Okay, thank you for that. But okay, Ken told me the very first thing everybody says after it's over with, what's the first thing everybody hollers? Ken,
When's the next one?
when's the next one?
And
Well, the next one is gonna be 20 years from now. And
well,
I'll be about 96 and a half years old. And so I told my son 2 things. Number 1, you're gonna push the wheelchair if I'm still here. Number 2, if I am not, I said I didn't charge him anything to go on this trip. I said, you are going to promise me or I'm going to get you. If you have kids, if you don't take them to see one in 20 years, no, I'll get you. I'll come back and I'll get you. So he said, okay, Dad, okay, Dad. Okay. Okay, and these, if you want to learn about astronomy, as you guys know, you came here to the Warren Astronomical Society. These are other local astronomy clubs and groups around here. The Oakland Astronomy Club. Some of the members of our club are also members of the Oakland Club. I know Ken and I are. Ken Helwig is, and a couple other members. the Florida Astronomy Club. That's the only club I don't belong to locally, because that it's just a long ways for me to drive because I live in Macomb. Uh, but I also belong to the Seven Ponds Club up near Metamora and Dryden. That's a great club. And if you want to learn about more about that, the Cranbrook Science Center is a great place. Our astronomy club has meetings once a month here, once a month at the Cranbrook Science Center, but you can also go there and they have a great telescope in their observatory there. Unfortunately, it's not in a nice dark location, but you can still see some great things with that. And there's also the Michigan Science Center. So those are groups I like to promote and try to, get people going there because it'll keep them being around. Okay, let's see now here. That's the end of it.
Let me tell,
So,
let me add a couple things at the end if you don't
Yeah.
mind. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, the next eclipse, by the way, in the United States is what Bob was talking about, but the next total solar eclipse is on August the 2nd, 2026. It will go, it'll be a little bit above Greenland, up around the top, and then it will sweep down the eclipse down to Spain. And I'm going with a group to Spain to see that eclipse. Now, every eclipse that you see is followed by the same eclipse 18 years and 11 days later, 1/3 around the Earth. So what it is if you take a look at the paths of these eclipses, it would be the same path. It just would be 1/3 around the Earth. This eclipse that we just saw, the last time I was here, I saw it, and I was in Libya. And it's the same shape of an eclipse that you can see 18 years and 11 days before. For example, the two really large eclipses, that was this was 159, I think, or maybe 129, I'm not sure. But Saros 123 is the one that was 6 minutes long. And I saw the first one in South Africa, and the next one that occurred was in China. Those are the real long ones. I'm sorry. The first one I saw was in Mexico, and the next one was in China in 2008. So if you want to talk about eclipses, they're going on a lot more than you think. But again, it's about every 1.5 to 2 years that you see the next eclipse. And again, if you can spend the money, you want to go with Fred Espenak, and we got a whole crew going. If you're interested in doing it, I'll get you all the information. It may already be filled up. It's a possibility. Do you have any questions at all for me on any of that? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, Bob. You did a great job.
hey, thanks, Ken, for helping out in that. Ken was a good resource because, as I say, he's gone to a lot of them. So he saved us a lot of making the wrong decisions, whatever. And this thing with the plane, actually, the first trip, after we'd already reserved the rooms and everything else, we actually found out we could have done that. And it probably certainly would have saved us some grief and hardships and everything, but
Sure.
it wouldn't have been any cheaper because it's still pretty expensive to fly on a plane. But if you can get enough people on a plane, the price does go down. So that was what we were looking at. And if you plan on learning anything more about eclipses, Ken is the guy. If you think about going to one, talk to Ken. He can tell you where to go, and
Anytime.
everything else.
Thank you, Bob. That was great.
Okay,
Yeah, this is let me share that. That is the share that screen.
USA.
2044.
Yeah. Come on.
2044.
That will be the one in the Michigan area. That's the one in
Yeah,
2040.
that's the Michigan one.
Yeah, so there's the eclipse path.
There
2040.
was one other thing also, last thing I wanted to mention to you. The reason that we selected Arkansas, we could have gone to Maine, and Maine would have been good, but you have to understand that the length of totality changes from the center of the eclipse. And this one was in Mazatlan, in Mexico. And that was 4 minutes and about 27 seconds. And if you went up to Maine, you would only had 3 minutes and 2 seconds. That's still pretty long for an eclipse, but just the same, I wanted to maximize, and that's why
We
did
had
it.
about 2 minutes, and
Yeah,
as it
there you
was
go.
ending, I was saying to myself, I'm not ready for it to end yet. There's other pictures I wanted to get.
You are. That's why
The-
we decided on Arkansas. you know.
The picture that I ended up with, which is behind me, I barely snapped that one off. It was, well, I'm losing the color fast. I better hit the button. And
And
so,
the picture that's behind me is a layered one and that Adrian is very, very good at doing that, by the way. And this is
yeah, I wanted to do that and I couldn't because I didn't have enough time. I needed to be at the center.
Yeah, this is
I
one of
forget who
the-
did that one, Ken.
This is Espinex. One of the-
Yeah, Espinac did. Yeah, and which is why, if you learn nothing else, go to the center of totality. You want the time because if you want to do one, if you want to enjoy it, you want to enjoy it as long as possible.
Absolutely.
And listen, was there any discussion about all the howling that goes on when people see the eclipse for the first time and you don't tell them that they're going to howl? It typically happens.
It happens all the time, and then the other factor involved with an eclipse is they are so shocked they don't even, you know. And the other thing that I mentioned earlier, Bob, we were talking about the glasses. You got to emphasize the use of glasses before totality, but you do not want to wear the glasses during totality because you won't see it.
I didn't see
all
a
you see
thing.
is
What was
nothing.
everybody yelling about?
The corona is the same brightness as the full moon. Okay, so you can see it without any issues. That's the deal.
Listen, you guys, let's take a speaker.
I will say you guys were the test bed for this because this actually is the second time I gave this, but the third time in a couple of months I'm giving it at a astronomy star party at the Oakland Club up in the Thumb. So, do you
Oh,
guys have any
nice.
suggestions? Any
What part of the
changes you'd
thumb?
like to see?
Bob, what part of the thumb?
What was the name of that city we're going to? I mentioned it to you. Yeah, I have to pull it up, but it's I think it's already sold out. It's a very small
Probably
group.
Port Crescent or Port Austin, where Port Crescent State Dark
Yeah,
Sky Park
I can
is.
if you check with me after, I can tell you. It's I've got my count. Yes, it's up towards Bad Axe. It's about 60
Okay.
miles from my house in Macomb, and the club we get a very small RV park, and we take over the whole thing, and we're there
So it's
for 3 days, and it's a really cool event. It's but we're
right.
already sold out because it's very limited numbers of people there.
Yeah, it's probably right before you get to the tip of the thumb where all
Yeah.
the dark sky park is. And I go up there frequently. It's why I never have any sleep. But yeah, this is a spot that I probably have driven by many times and never realized it's there. It does get dark right before you get to the shoreline where Caseville, Albert E. Sleeper. The image you showed earlier, Bob, was from Albert Sleeper State Park in the
Mhm.
at the tip of the thumb. And yeah, it gets dark there too.
Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
up
I'm gonna
near Snover.
Yes, yeah, that's
Snow-
it. Yeah, yeah, that was
Snover
it.
is
Yeah,
the name.
yeah. It's Snover. Snover. Snover.
It's
Snover.
Pretty neat little place.
between Marlette and Sandusky.
Yeah.
Okay. I do know. I drive by Marlette all the time if I'm
Yeah, it's
going to
just
the
west
tip of
of
the
Marlette.
thumb near going to Port Crescent or Port Austin and the state parks there. If I veer to the right and go to the right tip of the thumb where Point O'Bark Lighthouse Park is, that's another dark area, but it's super busy during summer nights, so it's just not as dark as it can get. The sky itself is beautiful, but you've got a lot of stuff going on at the lighthouse. You go to the lighthouse in the winter.
Snover is about 30 miles from where I was born and raised.
I wanted
Nice.
to show you one more thing on this picture that you see behind me. This is actually this last eclipse. Do you see
Yeah.
the square up there at the top? There was a comet visible. You can see the small little one and behind that one right there. It's right up.
Oh, not that one.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
I got
Well,
Yeah, this
yeah,
is
I
just
was
a
looking
blow-up.
at that. I remember seeing that being posted online.
And this
I was
is the
like, that's
comet actually physically.
fantastic.
You can see where it is. This is blown up. But again, if you're looking at this, you're not looking at that, and forget that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why you take the you make sure your gear, after you've seen as many eclipses as Ken has, your gear is set up and ready to go, and
Yep.
you want to be able to press go on your gear and then enjoy the eclipse. Turn around and look at your images
Afterward.
you go, oh, look at what I
Well,
got.
I don't take pictures anymore because I got people like Adrian and I got people like Fred and I got people like Bob who take pictures. I do what my wife was smart enough to do the first time she saw it. She just sat there in a chaise lounge and in Aruba and looked at it through the whole time just with her eyes. And one of the other astronomers poked me in the side and said, "Look at her, she got it right." You know, so
Oh yeah, you don't want to spend eclipse time. And those of you that are aspiring to get an eclipse picture like Fred Espenek, you don't want to lose seeing the eclipse with your eyes. That's the most important moment of an eclipse in my mind. A total solar eclipse is watching the transformation of that whole sun moon thing go, where all of a sudden you lose the sun, its corona peaks out. It's something you don't see every day, which is an understatement. You may not see all of the lines like you see in that picture. It does take the cameras to get the true shape of whatever the corona is doing. You do need the cameras for that, but you have to know how to stack and process. What your eyes see is still amazing. And then you see the sky transform as it gets dark enough to start seeing planets, then larger stars.
Right.
There may be a chance to try and look at a star near where the eclipse is, try to look at its position in the sky and see if the sun is actually, if it's actually in a gravitational well, light bending around the sun. That's what Einstein's theory of relativity. I forget,
absolutely
Ken,
right.
was it the special theory of relativity that was proven
right
with a total solar eclipse? So
it's
you
the
can
bending
see,
of the light.
you
Right.
can see if you can pick that out for yourself if you have a long enough period of totality. In 2 minutes, you just don't have time to do that between the howling you're going to do, the disbelief if it's your first one, and the pictures that you're going to fumble to take and their lenses are going to fall off your camera. Rather than being frustrated about pictures, just drop everything and decide how you're going to try and see the next one. Enjoy seeing the eclipse, because that's huge.
Now,
My comment is
Oh.
it's Einstein's general theory of relativity.
Right, general. That's
okay,
right.
that's what
Right.
it's the
And
general theory and not
you
the special.
cannot see that effect with just your eye. It's less than 1 arc second
Right. That's
change
it.
in the position of a star.
There's two more things about the eclipses that I just wanted to mention as long as we're here to do this. The length of the totality is determined by how far the moon is from us and the sun is from us. So what you have with the moon varies its distance from about 220,000 miles to about 260,000. So if it's sitting at about 220,000, you're going to have yourself a real nice long eclipse because the moon is going to cover it. Now, one of the nice things about a short eclipse, that means when they're about the average distance, is you get to see the moon on the sun and you get to see all the prominences around it really, really clear because there's no blocking of the moon of those prominences. So even to see a short eclipse totality, I had one in India. I saw one for 47 seconds, but it was magnificent. It was absolutely unbelievable.
That explains how easily everyone who at least got a few shots off got prominences. So this moon must have been further away.
It was,
and the prominences were visible.
well, actually, it was this one. It was a little bit closer, but again, like for instance, if you have a 6-minute eclipse, for example, you're not going to see the one side as much as you are. At 4 minutes is probably the really good time. The other thing is if the moon is farther away, then around 245,000, what happens is the moon does not cover the disk of the sun, and you get what is known as a ring, which is called the annular or annular eclipse. That's cool to look at too, but you don't get to see the prominences and you don't get to see the corona on those. And
if I'm not mistaken, if you look at it a little too long, you don't get to see much of anything left because doesn't your corona begin to kind of burn?
If you touch one of the sides, it can burn a hole in your retina, and that's that you certainly don't want that. That's why you got to stay away from the surface of the sun, and in an annular, you can't look at it without glasses. You have to
Yeah.
do, and annulars come pretty often. We had one this year earlier.
Yeah,
Uh,
2 months before solar, if I'm not,
right.
a few months before
And
solar.
generally speaking, you see lunar eclipses very, very close to the time of solar eclipses every time. If you take a look at the charts, it may not be a total lunar eclipse, but a partial lunar eclipse will go about 2 weeks later because the moon is now in that last phase. It's a new moon when it's doing this, but when it becomes a full moon, you can see a lunar eclipse. So if you take a look at the charts and see the times, you'll see 2 weeks later or 2 weeks before, you'll see there's a lunar eclipse somewhere on the earth. Kind of cool. It's an interesting because you're on the same plane as where they are. Okay. Anyway, I can.
You could
You
go all
guys could
day.
keep going on about eclipses for hours. I
Oh,
know
yes.
that.
You know something, there's no question about it. I'm sorry about that because I do get
You're
carried
fine.
away.
So we have to wrap up here. It says our next star party and open house at Stargate Observatory is in 2 days on the 22nd at 8 p.m.
I love
Our
it.
next board meeting is in 4 days on Monday. Our next general meeting will not be July 1st because the holiday will be July 8th, and that's going to be in collaboration with the Michigan Mineralogical Society. And several of us meet afterwards at the National Coney Island on Groesbeck at south of 12 Mile. And with that, closing up the meeting. Clear skies, everyone. Good night. See you later, everyone.